Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to everyone that is joining this live, as well as everyone that is watching the replay. So I'm doing a surprise live this morning. And in this live, I'm going to be talking to you all about knowing your worth and how self-love really supports us in knowing our worth and expressing that to the world at large. One of the big things that we absolutely must look at and must work at when we are on a self-love journey is us understanding our value and our worth. If you think about some of the most difficult experiences that you have been through, particularly those that are connected to other people. So, family relationships, romantic relationships, business relationships. If you dig deep, what you will often find at the very, very root is that we were not loving ourselves, we were not honoring ourselves, we were not treating ourselves or choosing ourselves as we ought to have. Now, the thing to understand is that this is the journey for all of us, for the vast majority of us, because most of us were not taught how to love ourselves. In fact, most of us were taught how to love other people at the expense of ourselves. I mean, think about what it was like for you as a little kid. You had your own little mind, your own thoughts, and your own feelings. And quite literally, your mind was being shaped, your personality was being shaped and sculpted by the adults, the teachers, the people in authority around you. And what we know is that people who do not love themselves, people who have not worked through their own trauma, people who have, good morning, good morning. So good to have you here. We're talking about just self-worth and the importance of self-worth and how it really changes the game, for those of us that are on a self-love journey. So our little minds were sculpted. And as I was saying, when you're raised by people that have gone through their own trauma and have not done their inner work and are still very much at the beginning stages of just figuring out who they are, they transfer a lot of their issues, a lot of their baggage, a lot of their limiting beliefs, even either consciously or unconsciously, they transfer a lot of negativity into us. Like basically when we're a little kid, we're being programmed. Okay. And so the environment is a part of the program, and all of the people around us are a part of the program. I always say that most parents, not all, do the best that they can. So there are not as many parents that come into the world that are like, I want to mess up my child. Most parents are trying to do the best they can with what they have, with the level of consciousness that they are at the time. So that's very important for us to recognize, because sometimes we're doing self-love work and I might be working with a client one-to-one, and there's a lot of trauma that happened in childhood. There's a lot of pain that happened because of a parent or parents. Some of you grew up with emotionally unavailable parents. Some of you grew up with narcissistic parents, histrionic parents. Like, Many of us grew up with parents that have many issues because their parents had issues and their parents had issues and their parents had issues. And we have a lot more knowledge and research and understanding now that trauma is passed down intergenerationally. So, my point in giving you all of this background today is to really remind you that if you struggle with issues of knowing your worth and loving yourself, if you woke up one day and you were like, what is going on with me? I need to love myself. I haven't been loving myself. I've been letting people walk all over me. I've been people pleasing. I've been trying to make everyone else happy, but not making myself happy. I prioritize everyone else's needs above my own. I'm too afraid to take the leap or try something different. I struggle with confidence. I am very anxious a lot of the time. Sometimes I feel quite depressed, or it's been very difficult for me to get over something hard that happened to me in my past, or I can't seem to attract the things that I want in my life. Like, I struggle to manifest. I struggle to manifest good friends. I struggle to manifest like abundance around me. If these are some of the things that you have experienced from time to time, or maybe you're in a little bit of a dip right now, I want you to understand that you're not alone and that all of us are going through the journey together. At the end of my videos, when I say to you all, we truly are in this together, I really mean it. I have yet to meet a human being that has not struggled internally and has not needed to do inner work. And I would say if you encounter or you meet someone that tells you or suggests to you that everything is always good, everything is always great, that they haven't like really gone through much of anything, chances are they're not very self-aware, or they're probably not very awake. It's a part of the human experience to go through these difficult things. And for those of us, that are highly sensitive, those of us that are empaths, those of us that are intuitive, those of us that are deep feelers, we in particularly tend to have a childhood that's a little bit more challenging, or just we go through a lot more obstacles in our early childhood and in our teens. So it's a part of the spiritual experience. It's a part of the journey. What I want to sort of shift to now in this conversation is to just talk a little bit about what it looks like when we have self-worth and what it looks like when we don't really have self-worth. Because sometimes many of us are confused. Some of us say, like, I will get on be in a session with a client, and they're like, I love myself. I know my worth. I feel really great. I don't know why things are happening for me this way in my life. Like, I don't know what the problem is, basically. And then when we dig deep and we start to get into it, and I take a look at their life, I take a look at the actions, the behaviors, the thoughts, the patterns, I have to say to them, I know that you're saying that you love yourself on the outside, but honestly, something's not adding up, because you are not thinking, acting, and emanating the energy of someone that knows their worth. And again, a lot of people are not conscious of this. So I want to ask those of you that are watching this right now, or I want to ask those of you that are watching the replay, what are some of the things that indicate to you that a person knows their worth and loves themselves? And as you're thinking about that and typing that in the chat or posting that in the comments, I'm going to give you some of the things that I watch for. One of the very big things that I look out for when I'm coaching and training people, couples, groups of people, is I really look at how they say yes or how they say no. First of all, do you have the ability to say yes and to say no? There are a lot of us that really struggle with this. You know, just simply saying, yes, I want you to help me. or yes, please send me the file, or no, I will not be attending. No, thank you. I don't want a second serving. Just simple, even the simplest things, some of us struggle to say no. Part of that comes from the people pleasing. Oh, I don't want this person to feel bad, so I'm going to have the extra serving or the extra helping. I don't want to seem rude, so I'm just going to go along with it. I'm really not feeling very well and I really don't want to go. This, occasion doesn't feel like somewhere I'm supposed to be, but, I don't want to say no. So I'm just going to go anyway because I'll feel bad. These things are examples of you not really being inside of who you are and not really knowing your worth. When you know your worth, you understand that your energy is precious. So there's very much a difference between wanting to connect with loved ones and wanting to maintain a healthy relationship and feeling like you have to do whatever it is you think they want you to do in order to maintain that relationship. The latter is not healthy. And it is not self-loving, and it is not about you knowing your worth. In fact, what you can see in that scenario is there's actually some pretending that's happening. It's like, I'm going to pretend to be this person so that I can sustain this relationship. And that is devaluing you not knowing your worth. So to just go over this point again, your ability to say yes or no conveys your connection to your sense of self and what your worth and your value is to yourself. People who value themselves and know their worth are gracious and are very comfortable or moving towards being much more comfortable with just saying, yes, thank you, or no, thank you. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend, or thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. Um, won't be able to come this time, but looking forward to next time. Or even just genuinely saying something that's quite authentic. One of the things that I'm working on is being able to say no. And as much as I love you, and there's a part of me that wants to say yes because I don't want you to be upset or you to feel bad or you to feel like I don't care. What's really true for me is I don't think I should come this year. Communication like that. Now, understand I'm making it sound very simple. I know that relationships are very complicated and layered, and there's a lot of history often, and some people are a little bit scarier to confront than others. But ultimately, your yes and your no, how powerful these things are, lets you know where your sense of self-worth is. And it also conveys that to other people. It also lets other people know how you value yourself and your energy. The other thing that I would definitely say conveys or demonstrates your sense of self-worth and how you feel about yourself is what you allow. And this is a really big one. We could spend a good amount of time just looking at examples here and just talking about this. But what you allow, specifically what I'm speaking to here, are the things that you let happen to you because you don't want to speak up. So this can be a little bit like boundaries. We could probably put that in this category as well, what you allow. But just consider how often someone says something to you, someone does something to you, someone treats you in a particular way, and you just say nothing. You say very little about it. You don't bring it up. You don't mention it. You don't have a conversation about it. And in fact, you might even get quite annoyed, irritated, angry about it. You might even have thoughts in your head about this person, be complaining about them, maybe even complaining to other people. But notice that you're not addressing it directly with the person who is doing it or the people that are doing it. This suggests that you're afraid to speak up for yourself, which then suggests that, once again, you don't really know how to protect yourself or you're too afraid to do so. This suggests, I'm like giving you the layers here, that there's a part of you that thinks that their comfort is more important than your wellness. I'm going to say that again. There's a part of you that thinks that their comfort level is more important than how you feel and your wellness. So that suggests that your worth is quite low. And I understand that this can feel a little bit like an oversimplification, but just sit with that. If it feels a little bit uncomfortable or it feels like, what did she just say? Totally understand. For those of us that are very empathetic, we want to be kind and we want to be compassionate. We don't want to hurt people. That's not our intention. And so at times we can get really preoccupied with trying not to hurt other people, but hurting ourselves. And there's something about that that's off. That's not self-loving. You can sort of try to pass it off as being caring or considerate, but if it's being caring and considerate of the other person and not yourself, then does it really qualify as caring and considerate? I say no. If you're giving it to someone else, but you're not giving it to yourself, then it doesn't qualify as caring or loving or compassionate or understanding. Self-love is not about discarding ourselves in order to be in relationships with other people, in order to maintain other relationships, or anything like that, in order to save face. The self-love journey, which is a very, very difficult one, which is why so many people don't stick with it, why so many people jump off, is one where you really need to dig deep and stand in your truth and have courage, because it means that you probably will have quite a few uncomfortable conversations, particularly with people who don't love themselves and who don't really value the teachings or principles of self-love. Now, the people who generally don't value these things are usually abusers, narcissists, or just genuine people that are just not at that level of consciousness where they have not done their inner work. So because they're not so self-aware and they don't take care of themselves and they don't really love themselves, they expect people to abandon themselves and reject their feelings, suppress their feelings for the greater good. In other words, for a lot of the people that we know in our lives, being loving looks like self-sacrifice. Being loving looks like forgetting all about yourself and being all about the other person. Being loving looks like codependency. Being loving looks like enmeshment. Being loving looks like trauma bonding. And so for those people, when you start to be like, hold on a second, I don't know about that, doesn't really feel good for me, or respectfully, I understand that that's something that you really love and enjoy doing, but for me, I don't know, it's just not for me. So I think I'm going to opt out. They will hate that. They will absolutely hate that. So you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable yourself and get comfortable with letting other people be and feel and act however they are. One of the things that I really had to work on in my own self-love journey was that I was a people pleaser. I believe I've mentioned this quite a bit in different classes and different lives. I literally was that person that I just always wanted to be liked, and I wanted to make sure that people always, I didn't want any conflict, if you understand what I mean. Didn't want any conflict, always wanted things to be easy, always wanted everything to just be smooth. And so, in order to maintain relationships like that, I would just do whatever the other person wanted. Or if I had a thought or feeling about something, I just wouldn't say it. I would just agree, 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 agree. Yeah, totally. Or just like do whatever I thought needed to be done to maintain the relationship. And eventually I realized, like, wow, this is really demonstrating that I'm a nobody to myself. I don't matter. I'm telling myself that it's because I'm sweet or because I'm kind or because I'm caring or because I'm trying to be loving. But actually, if I really drill deep into it and look at it, what I'm saying is my feelings don't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. My truth doesn't matter. I am the one that can just become nothing to adapt to everyone else. It's like I had no sense of person. I was just like ever changing. So that obviously is not knowing your worth, not loving yourself, and what it can look like. So, in order to really demonstrate that you know your worth, it's going to require you absolutely to be graceful and humble and kind and compassionate, and also be there for yourself in conversations, be there for yourself in interactions, be there for your inner child, operate from your highest good. Understand that healthy relationships sometimes have a bit of conflict. Healthy relationships are ones where we don't always align and agree on every single thing. And like that is what makes a relationship quite robust, is that it's not like being in a cult where everybody has to think exactly the same or do exactly things in the way that, one person wants. And it's not about codependency and just feeling like you don't have a sense of person, right? We want to have relationships where both people or all people are inside of the relationship. So I could go on forever about that, but that's just like a beginning to kind of look at that for yourself, to really consider for yourself, like, what am I allowing? Something else that happens sometimes when I'm working with couples, there's one partner that has not been saying anything. It's like they need more help with, the finances, or they need more help with the kids, or they need more help around the house, or perhaps, the intimacy in the relationship has gone down and they're not feeling really loved, not feeling really seen, not feeling really appreciated, but not saying anything. They're just allowing things to go on this way. They're being intimate in a way that doesn't work for them. They are just doing all of the work without saying, I need help, or I need more, or just really, even maybe if they've said it 1,000 times to their partner, hey, we have a serious issue here that we need to work on in our marriage or in our relationship. And this person, the partner keeps fluffing it off, them not really being firm and saying, if we do not sit down to work on this, I may not want to be in this marriage anymore, or I may not want to be in this relationship or anymore. Like, it takes courage to say that kind of thing, but that's an example of no longer allowing. Okay? And I want to just be mindful to create that consciously, because I don't want you all to like run out and give your partners ultimatums. You need to really like think about that carefully and how you want to create that and when is the appropriate time to do that. And I recommend working with a therapist or a coach like myself who can really look at if you have done the steps that come before that, before you just launch into that with your partner, because your partner might be like, what? And we want it to work in your favor. We want it to bring the closeness and the workability that you're looking for, not destroy, your relationship. So those are just a couple of things, what you allow. Some other things that demonstrate you knowing your worth is just how you speak about yourself. And this is so important. This is something that a lot of us overlook. A lot of us are not very aware of how we show up and how we talk about ourselves in the presence of other people. So we're either not even aware of our internal dialogue or our self-talk. It's just happening like monkey mind, as they call it. Or we're also not very present or conscious of like how we are in groups or spaces. I cannot tell you the number of times I will be in a group space and there is someone that is either talking about themselves with too much inflated arrogance, like the insecurity is seeping out of them. So how do I explain this? When we're really insecure, we have a tendency to want to overcompensate. We have to be really loud. We have to be the constant center of attention. We have to, at times, be overbearing or controlling, telling people what to do. We may talk a lot about ourselves. And I don't mean like in this yay, healthy way of just loving on yourself. I mean, in this way where you are trying to prove something to people. People can really feel that. It's very off-putting. So one of the practices that you want to get into, a self-love practice, is to really just check in when you're in group settings or group spaces and just ask what energy am I bringing forth right now? Is it loving myself energy? Is it confident energy? Is it present and grounding energy? Or is it insecure energy? Is it I don't feel good enough energy? Is it like I want them to like me energy? Is it I have to prove something energy? Do those check-ins, okay? Because it will prevent you from emanating or coming from a place of low self-worth. Okay. And then if you do have those things going on, I'm not good enough, I don't belong in this group with these people, they're better than me, or, any of those kinds of things, those are things that need to be worked on. You've got some really deep, deep beliefs in there about who you are. There's likely things happening in your life right now or not happening in your life right now that have you not feeling proud of you. And there's just stuff to work on. You want to go deep and do that inner work in a one-to-one session with someone like myself or therapist, or watch some of my other videos. And actually, I'll be coming out with a ton of online courses that you all will be able to just do at home to help you to work on some of these sort of things, okay? But do the check-in so that you can be self-aware. That's the first. So once you have that self-awareness, you can then shift that energy. On the flip side, you can tell when you don't really know your worth and you're not really loving yourself, when you're the sort of like the opposite end of the spectrum of the big, over the top, doing the most, controlling person. And it's like, you're like quiet as a church mouse. You're not really speaking. You're not really participating. You're not contributing. You're not sharing ideas. If it's in the workplace, you're not putting your, I don't know, we don't really put our hands up, but well, yeah, we do in Zoom, right? You're not contributing. And so that usually says, I don't have anything of importance to say. I don't really think that I bring much value, and I don't really think that I can make much of a difference. That is what that is digging deep into or conveying. You might try to tell yourself, no, I just want to give other people a chance to speak. Um, you know, I just want to see what other people have to say first, or I just don't feel like I can say what I need to say. That is sometimes how your brain will rationalize it. But I'm telling you right now that people who know their worth and people who know their value and know that they bring value to a team, that they bring value to a space, and actually care about bringing that value, they're going to speak. That presence is going to be felt. They are going to show up. They're going to contribute. Their heart space is going to be open, and they're going to have like connect with me energy, not closed off body language and energy. Let me just check and see how you all are doing in the comments here. Thank you so much for the hugs there. I absolutely love those little squishy faces. They're so cute. Okay, so you want to be very self-aware. Am I not talking? Am I being like a little wallflower? Am I like acting like I don't have anything to share or contribute? Or am I being so over the top and sucking up all the energy in the room and talking too much about myself? Watch out for these things. I'll give you another thing that you can check for or watch for to see if you know your worth. And if it's there, again, we want to shift that. Y'all, this is a big one. Please, please stop with the self-deprecating things. Just stop. So many of us do it, and it's such a habit. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm so dumb. Why did I do that? You're saying that to yourself, and you're saying it out loud with people around you. Oh, I'm so clumsy. Oh, I never get anything right. Oh, I look so ugly in this thing. Oh, please, please, please stop that. Stop. Just stop, okay? Like, if that is something that you do, therapy and one-to-one work, okay? Please. Your neurocircuitry is now wired for you to just fire like that and say these things to yourself. And I cannot begin to tell you how harmful it is. How harmful it is. It does not help you to grow, to heal, to develop. It actually keeps you stuck. It holds you back. And also, it tells everyone in the room that your self-worth, your value is low. So now everybody around you sees that, and people interact with you based on what you show them. You will have some kind, lovely souls, like people that are like projectors like myself, if you guys know anything about human design, or empaths, or like just really loving, caring people that will want to scoop you up and pick you up and tell you, no, don't say that about yourself, or no, you're so, like, you're good, the dress looks great, or these kinds of things, okay? But all the predators in the room, the narcissists, the sociopaths, the cutthroat sharks in the workplace, the nosy neighbor, the people that are kind of in this mentality that it's a dog eat whatever world, or you have something they want, or like, let's say you're in a powerful position, they want to network, people that want to take from you. You do that stuff in front of them, you leave yourself wide open for them to manipulate and maneuver you. So please stop doing that. In the presence of other people, particularly in spaces that are not held for you as a container for doing your inner work and doing your healing, protect yourself by keeping those thoughts to yourself. Okay, watch that. Be very self-aware when it comes to that. That totally translates a lack of self-worth. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, I don't really mean it when I say those things. You can feel it when someone means it and when someone doesn't. You can feel it when it's just like, oh, it's like a little fleeting comment, like, oh, I'm so stupid, right? Or so silly. And it's like just a little fleeting comment, versus like you can tell when this is the kind of thing that someone says to themselves on a regular basis and they believe it. You feel it, the people around you feel it, it's in your body language, it's in your auric field, like it's so ever present. Anyone that's sensitive to energy will see it. So you want to be careful of that. No one loves me as much as I love myself. Yes, I love that, right? Because it all begins with self-love. It all begins with self-love. Like that is literally the foundation. And as I say to you all, this knowing your worth piece with the self-love is what changes the game, because when you know your worth and you are loving yourself, you put out like a force field of energy through the way, even just the way you look at people, right? You've heard the expression that the eyes are the window to the soul. They really are, okay? I can read people by just looking into their eyes, whether they're directly in front of me or they're right in a photo. And anyone that is intuitive, anyone that's an empath, anyone, again, that's like a projector, again, for those of you that know human design, like we have an ability to pick up on things in ways that defy like science and logic, okay? We can't always explain it. Sometimes people want to say, oh, it's pattern recognition, mood reading, hypervigilance, all these kinds of things. Yes, for those of us that have experienced trauma or had unsafe environments while we were growing up, that is definitely true for a lot of us. But a lot of us have something else. It's that extra layer. And so I'm just letting you know that energy and communication is happening in all ways, body language, in your field, and in ways that are nonverbal. People think, oh, I'm not speaking it, nobody knows. No, that's definitely not true. Let me just delete this. So that's really important to note. The other thing is, you don't have to be someone that's like myself or like many of you here that maybe have, those abilities or those gifts, right? Just the average person can pick up on it. Just the average person can feel when you are self-deprecating and all of that. In addition, let me say this, okay? And some people are not going to like this, but another thing that demonstrates how you feel about yourself is your online presence. And whether you know your worth is your online presence. I'm going to go there. If you are that person, okay, where every single thing in your, your feed, your Facebook, your Instagram has to be this perfect tra-la-la-la-la, like, like stuff. You never have a moment where you don't have makeup. You never have a moment where you're not, just relaxed. Everything is perfect. Unless you're like an art designer and it's for your business. I'm just talking about you. What we know is that we only usually see like 30% of a person's real life anyway on social media. The rest is hidden from us, right? But like if you are trying so hard to make everything look so perfect, everything's got to be so perfect all the time. You want to look into that. And I'm not just talking about, I want to be clear, I'm not just talking about an aesthetic. I get it. We all have an aesthetic, a look, we like things to be a certain way. Again, if you're into like art or decor or it's for your business, totally get that. But I'm saying like, if you can never be in stories or you can never be anywhere, like everything always needs to be perfect, that is conveying deep, deep insecurity, a lack of self-worth. Like you can't just be. It says who you are as you are is not enough. You always have to be overdone, put together, packaged, and curated in order to be enough or presentable, or to make sure that you're manipulating the view that other people have of you. Okay, so definitely check in and watch for that. And obviously, as you are listening to this and thinking about yourself and your own self-worth and where you're at and what you want to work on, you can probably think of some people that I'm talking about these points and you're like, that reminds me of this person, or that reminds me of that person. It's valuable to also be able to tell who around you doesn't really have self-worth, right? Who around you is really struggling with that. Because if you love them, it will help you to understand them more and where they're coming from. But in addition, if there's somebody that has a hard time with you, or is often angry at you, or resentful of you, or ticked off at you, or they're constantly like mad about the choices that you make, you can understand why that is. If they don't have it for themselves, they don't really understand where you're coming from. Okay? Now, the other thing online that can convey like not knowing your worth, all right, is again how you talk about yourself, how you speak about yourself. You know, I think one of the things that's really, really awesome in the last couple of years is that more of us are being honest and talking about how we feel and what we have gone through in our past. You know, I did post like yesterday an Instagram where I had a soup and I talked about, man, like how I had an eating disorder and like what it was like for me from childhood until now, and the journey that I went through with like really, really just hating my body and hating myself, right? And so it's great that more of us are sharing that. But what we have to look at is, why is the person sharing that? Because why they're sharing that tells us about their self-worth, tells us about our self-worth. And what I find is that while it's beautiful that more of us are sharing, many of us are sharing not just to share, but because we're trying to get validation. Do you understand what I mean? So it's like, let me tell you how depressed and how ugly and how awful and how miserable and how this and that and all the other that I feel is, because now I want people to rally around me and comfort me and assure me that I'm not those things, or I need the likes and the, you know, the comments to make me feel better. Now, some people are not going to like this. Some people are going to say, well, Renee, let people do whatever they want to do. It's their journey. You know, I agree with you. It is your journey. And maybe that's a part of your healing process and what you want to do. It's just not the method that, it's not the motivation that I advise my clients to work with when they're sharing about that stuff. Okay. For them and for myself, I use the same sort of way of handling this. We want a holistic view of sharing, which means like, here's my authentic truth, and I'm being empowered about my authentic truth. Even if my truth is quote unquote ugly, even if it's messy, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not what people want to hear, even if it's whatever, it's mine. It's mine. And I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this as a part of my journey. I'm doing this to empower myself. I am doing this because I deserve better. Do you see how the container is very different than like, I just suck. I suck. I suck. Like, I just, like, and that's what a coach and a therapist is there for. They're not there to take away those feelings. They're not there to take away your past. We are there to hold a container for you so that that process is moving you forward. And it is inside of you loving yourself and knowing your worth, not you further causing harm to yourself and inviting other people that are in their trauma for all of you to wade in a pool of trauma. That's trauma bonding, in my opinion. Can you do believe mind, body, and soul? If so, would it be mind that has difficulty connecting with the soul's love? Wow, that's such a great question. Okay, let me just think about that for a second. So, yes, it's the mind. Here's why I say that, and I could answer that a couple of different ways. Let me just look at the time because I have a client in 15 minutes. A couple, I have like 6 in a row. So want to make sure I get off this live in time to be ready for that. But what I would say is this, is what has us struggle is our ego. And the ego is a part of the construct of the mind. So if you look at other animals on the planet, right? Human beings are an animal as well. What sets us apart from most of the other animals is our prefrontal cortex and our ego mind. You know, the cat and the dog might go through something, okay? And so they can be classically conditioned, like we all know that from, taking Psych 101, the classical conditioning and stuff like that. So if you hit a dog 10 times, they will become afraid that they're going to hit again. So they do have memory. Animals have memory, but they don't have all of this, like, I'm such a disgusting person, I suck, and that's why nobody likes me. That person's that person doesn't deserve their success. They're a mean girl. Like, animals are not doing that. Humans are. We are the ones that are creating all of these social constructs, like, this is what's beautiful, this is what's not, this is what makes you valuable, this is what makes you not valuable. Like, we're adding a lot of language and interpretation and all of that. We're creating meaning, essentially. And so the more meaning we create, the more beliefs we create, the more ego identified we become, the less connected we are to our divinity, to our souls, to our bodies. The ego keeps us disconnected from ourselves, our souls, our bodies, and it keeps us disconnected from each other, which is why a lot of us fight each other. We are awful with each other. And sometimes I'm like, wow, these people really don't know that we are one. We might look all different kinds of ways on the outside. And yes, because of this 3D reality that we're living in, the third dimensional is quite low vibrational. It's very ego identified. So because of that, we're so fixated on our physical attributes, and our physical attributes affect our individual experiences in the world. So things like race, gender, ability, all of these things, right? Depending on your packaging, you're going to have a very different program walking through the matrix, right? But if you are waking up and you are on this self-love journey, you are less ego identified. And so you can see beyond these outer layers of people, and you really understand that we are one. And what happens to that person over there happens to you. You can't have all of these people suffering on the other side of the world over there and think your life is going to be not impacted over here. That's not how it works. We are one collective body. So that's how I would answer that question. Yes, it is the mind that keeps us, the mind, particularly the construct of the ego, that separates us from just truly being inside of ourselves, loving ourselves, knowing who we are, because who we fundamentally are is love. We are all, each of us, expressions of source consciousness. Every single one of us, every single one of us. And when you know that, you recognize that there isn't anything to not love. There isn't anything to not love. You are just an expression of being human right now. And so any way that you are in the eyes of source, God, the creator, the universe, you're whole and complete. You're always loved. So that's where we're kind of trying to get ourselves to with ourselves. And that doesn't mean that we don't work on ourselves. Like you and I, we're all together here on this live, right? Working on ourselves, developing ourselves. We're talking about self-worth and elevating ourselves. So it doesn't mean that, oh, good, I love myself, I'm done. Good night. It simply means that it is our job to continue to do the inner work that gets any beliefs and any obstacles in the way of us loving ourselves and each other out of the way. We have to do our inner work. We need to help others to do their inner work. And we need to work on not just loving ourselves, but loving each other. It's all connected. All right. So you all, it has been so great to do this live with you. I am going to end here because, as I say, it's a full day of clients today. I've got like 6 calls in a row, and I've already been talking for, I think we've been talking for about an hour. So thank you all for joining me on this live. For those of you that are watching the replay, hope you really enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already liked here. For those of you that want to go deeper, you want to work with me one-to-one, all of that information is in the description box below, or you can go to reneemullinslewis.com or moderndaywisewoman.com and let's connect. All right, you all, have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day. And until we see each other next time, don't you forget that we truly are in this together. Bye. Bye. Thanks for being here.